So I got a fantastic comment by Liam Spacey Filmer. Go watch his videos if you haven't. They're insanely well edited, and he has less subscribers than I do, which is a crime. But he had asked, what has my ideal life, or how has my ideal life changed over time? And I think that's a fascinating question, because when I was a child, I didn't really think a lot about what I wanted my life to be, necessarily, or I had just sort of had fleeting ideas about what it could be. A lot of what I would think about when I got into, like, age 9 was mostly just, how can I continue living, right? How can I continue my existence? I wasn't really having ambitions, per se, but when I was younger, I had a lot of ambitions. I had a lot of different things that I wanted to do, and, one of which was the president. At one point, I wanted to be the president of the United States, just because I really, really looked up, and, this is gonna sound cringeworthy, I really, really looked up to Obama. And so I had thought, wow, there's this really nice guy who's just really nice to people, who's, running the entire country like this, and I was thinking, I want to be like that guy. And, let's see, I wanted to be a chef for a while. I thought my ideal life was gonna be living in, like, a apartment, just working in a city as a chef, and trying to make people happy through making food for them. Wanted to be a teacher for a while. That was a more practical idea that I had, but when this happened when I was 9 years old, where I kind of stopped having ambitions for life. Like, I stopped wanting to be things like the president, I stopped wanting to be things like a chef, and I had just had the thought, oh fuck, I am too lazy to actually do anything in real life. And so, I want to say for the next couple years, I had not really had any ambitions for what I was gonna do. Like, I had came up with ideas to tell other people in order to lie about what I wanted to do, but I myself had no ideas for what I was gonna do in real life. I had just thought, well, there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to work because I'm not good at school. And even back then I understood this. As a 9-year-old and then getting older, I understood that I wasn't good at school because I constantly cheated in school. Like, every single time I had a chance to cheat, I would, because I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to do something that I did not want to do. I only ever wanted to do stuff that I would want to do. And so, my ideal life, at that point, would have been just doing whatever I wanted to, not having to deal with school and not having to deal with a job. And so, for the next couple years, I ended up finding YouTube. In the next couple years, when I turned, 13 or 12, I want to say? I think it was 12 when I started making YouTube videos. Let's see, 2014, so I would have been 12. And I started making videos on Minecraft. And I didn't want to do that as a job at the time, because I just sort of saw it as a hobby, and I didn't really have an interest in doing it as a job. But that was going on for a while. It was just sort of something that I was doing. Then I did the gaming videos in 2015 when I was 13, and didn't really want to do that as a job either. It was just kind of something that I was doing. I was really anti the whole YouTube as a job thing at the time too, to where I would constantly talk about how it's stupid to do YouTube as a job and it's immoral or whatever. Stupid opinions like that. So I didn't want to do YouTube as a job, but everything changed when I turned 14. And I had been watching Digibro a lot, because he would constantly talk about how cool YouTube as a job is, and how everyone should do it, and everyone can do it, and that really inspired me at the time. So, this was, let's see, I was 14, what year? fuck, I can't do math. Oh yeah, 2016. So, yeah, so, fucking in 2016, I had just kind of been sitting around wanting to die a lot because the instability of my life was so great, and I knew that soon I was going to have to get a job in the real world. I was going to have to do something out and about in real life, and that was something I desperately did not want to do, because I knew I was not educated enough to be able to do something like that, because throughout all of my life I had been cheating constantly in school just so I wouldn't have to do it, and my grades were terrible in school. You know, I was not good at school at all. And so, what I had been sitting there doing was just like, how can I get around this? How can I get around this system? How can I continue my existence while doing something that's very easy that I like doing? And so the answer to that was YouTube. And I was seeing people like Digi just doing something that was, I would say, pretty easy, and I was like, wow, this is this medium that I really like, this is this medium that I really care about, I want to do this, I want to be like this guy. And so I spent basically all my time as a 14-year-old trying to pursue that, trying to practice constantly. You can go to my blog, I think it's outlawharvest.wordpress.com. I'll try and leave a link in the description if you really want to look at it, but I did a lot of very self-effacing blog posts back then, and a lot of very weird, strange, bad posts that just didn't make a lot of sense, that were written very poorly, that I was doing in the name of practice. And you can go back to my old vlogs on Outlaw's Graveyard Shift, and there's a lot of very bad videos there, too, that I was doing in the name of practice, because I understood that the only way to improve yourself is to constantly be making videos, constantly be writing, because that's what Digi said to do. And so I followed his train of thought, and eventually I did get a lot better because I just constantly kept doing that. Now I have like 820 something videos on YouTube, I think, and most of those were made from 2016 to 2018, you know, that's 2 years. So what I'm trying to get at here is Digi had really, really inspired me and changed what I wanted my ideal life to be. And ever since then, I felt like I had a form of direction, but I also constantly worried about the stability of the future, because I hated my own videos. Like, I knew my own videos were absolute dog shit, and I felt that they didn't really have any sort of pop appeal. My voice was something I was incredibly concerned about, because I hated the way my voice sounded. I thought it was way too monotone, and I thought no one could listen to this and enjoy this. And I hated my writing, because my writing was dog shit at the time. It's gotten a lot better now. I do enjoy some of the stuff I've written now, but back then it was just so bad, and so everything I was doing was just so bad, you know, a bad content after a bad content, and it just kept being like that, and it was constant mood. I felt that I could never do this job because I'm just so bad at it, and that's just how I continually felt. I felt, okay, I'm never gonna have any money, I'm never gonna make any money, oh god, am I just gonna be a NEET forever? And that was the constant thought on my mind about YouTube, about the stability of this and my dream of doing this, because my ideal life would have been to just be a YouTuber, to just constantly be making videos. That's what I wanted. And before I had that, for the last, like, 5 years before that point, I had zero direction whatsoever. Before that, my ideal life would have been just not being dead, you know? And even then, that's a stretch, because I wanted to kill myself a lot when I was 9 years old, so, you know, not the best, or from 9 to 14 at least. Had my first suicide attempt when I was 10, actually. That's a story for another day. But yeah, I just felt that, that I had zero direction, and so I didn't really know what to do, but I didn't get, like, super depressed about it until I was probably 11 or 10, when it really dawned on me that I wasn't gonna have a future. And so, I mean, I've always known that I'm a lazy sack of shit. Like, I've always known that I can't make it in the real world. It's because I cheated at school from an early age and just lied about it. So, it's always been very, very hard for me to hold down anything. Like, doing anything consistently has always been insanely difficult for me, or to, just, like, do real-world stuff has always been very difficult for me. I always try to find workarounds or to cheat at something, you know, because I just don't want to do it. But, my ideal life, when I turned 15, turned very different. I changed a lot of things. I wanted to be a teacher now, which was vastly different than anything I wanted before that point, because now I'm talking about I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna take core classes, very, very different stuff. I'm gonna get good at school. That was another thing that I was going on about all the time back then, and I had entered high school. So I had the chance to do that. I had the chance to get better at school. And when I joined high school, I joined this, like, college program where you can go to Austin Peay State University for the entire, or not the entire summer, 2 months out of the summer. And I had joined, you can literally live at Austin Peay and work there. That was the thing. And then I joined the automotive club, I joined the I was gonna join the journalism club, but I ended up not going, just because they didn't take my papers. And I had, taken, you know, the best classes that I possibly could take, that they would let me take, for the grades that I had previously, and so I had just wanted to get all my homework done. I wanted to do all this different stuff. You can even find podcasts where I talk about this to Magos. I had been telling him I want to get really good at school. There's old DMs that I have that's talking about how I want to get really good at school, and so I was really into this idea. But as I went out through the year, I just got so depressed, and I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is school we're talking about. I hate school. And I just had this motivation to just, you can do whatever you want, so just do it. And I kept trying to for a while, but, like, it was just something that I couldn't do. It was just something that I didn't want to do. So all of the motivation when I had first gotten into high school just left me, and I had just felt like a brainless husk by that point. And I ended up leaving high school throughout the halfway point in the year, but I still wanted to be a teacher for a while. I still wanted to go to college and take these stupid-ass core classes to become a teacher, and I'm not good enough at school to do that. I can get a GED fine. I can work hard enough to get a GED. A GED is easy. That's like 8th grade education right there. I've read my entire GED book, and there's nothing in there that isn't something that I don't know or didn't know at one point. So that's not hard to do. But going to college and having to take all these different classes is just something that I'm not going to be able to do because I don't have that level of education. So I thought about that for a while, and I was like, okay, this is not really something that I want to do or can do, and also the act of being a teacher is garbage. The only reason I wanted to do that was so I could help children, because I had this idea in my head of, I'm going to educate the youth and I'm going to help them with their lives in order to give back to society. And I was really, really big into that at the time. And I wanted to be an English teacher just going all around the world. So my ideal life at that point would have been going to every single country that I possibly could go to, and learning, by the time that I died, 10 languages, you know. And that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to constantly be language learning, constantly be learning about other stuff, and constantly be traveling and teaching kids. I wanted to be an English teacher in Mongolia, Bhutan. I really loved Asian countries, Vietnam, Myanmar, just all these different places. And I really, really loved Bhutan a lot. I still love Bhutan a lot. I think it's an incredible place. Definitely the greatest country in the world, no doubt. Like, I really love Bhutan. Vietnam and Bhutan are like tied for me as the greatest countries in the world. But, yeah, I had just kind of changed my mind about a lot of things after this point, where I had thought, okay, language learning's fine, I can do language learning. That I've always been decent at. I used to be really into language learning when I was little, where I would just steal my brother's Spanish tapes and just listen to them for hours and hours ad nauseum. So I can do language learning. Like, I like doing that. It's fun to me. It's just I get too depressed to continually do it, but now that I'm on my medication, language learning is a lot easier. And so I'm like, okay, I can do that, and I can travel. Now, of course, I'm not gonna live in every country in the world necessarily, because when you start dating someone, they have different ideas about the world, and they have different things that make them comfortable, and then you have to adjust what you want to do and your worldview more to account for them. Not necessarily because they asked you to. I know that my boyfriend would be fine with moving to all these different places. I just don't want to, because I know that it would make him somewhat uncomfortable. And so I'm fine with traveling to all these different places for, you know, a few months and just kind of going around, but a full-on move I know would be too much for him, just because I understand the way he is, and so I don't want to put that on him, you know? And that's because I understand, you know, how he sees things, and I don't want to put more stress on him than he needs, even though I know full well he would do this thing for me if I wanted it that much. But I don't want it that much anymore, because I don't want him to be stressed out, you know what I mean? So, my ideal world has changed when I turned 16, to where I was like, okay, all this teacher stuff's stupid, and now I have a cool boyfriend now, so, can't really move to all these different countries. I can still learn the languages and I can still travel to them, but can't really move. And so, now, my ideal life, what I would say it is to live with my boyfriend, to travel every now and then, and to just constantly be writing books and working on just miscellaneous YouTube videos and projects that I want to do at the time. Because I really, really want to write a book about the basics of Marxism, and about how Marxism works, and like all these different things about it, explain the different tendencies, explain Titoism and Marxism-Leninism, and I want to just like have pictures there that are funny and make a lot of sense, like very comedic pictures that drive home a point, and write everything in the most basic terminology, and write those things as short as I can possibly make them, like as short and quick as you can make a point. I also want to convert those books into videos so people can watch them and have, you know, little animations of stuff that's funny, to where they can kind of get their own thing while also watching an educational piece, you know? And so I want to write those books about Marxism, and I also want to write a book about the Soviet Union and Stalin, and just sort of explain, like, okay, Stalin actually was not that bad of a person if we look at history, if we look at what the USSR actually did. And I want to really heavily research history to do that, and just have all of these different sources to cite, all of these different things, and, like, just bring out every single logical argument that I could make, and just look through all of history and search really, really hard to get the information correct. This would not be like a half-assed book. This would be something where I would really, really look hard to get the information right to make my point. And I think it would be an important thing to do, to write that book, just so people would understand why the USSR was a good thing. Or maybe in the middle of it, I might find out that they're a bad thing. Who knows? I mean, based on my understanding of history, that isn't true. But hey, maybe I'll find out something in the middle of my search that disproves that, and then I'll be writing a different book. So anything could happen, you know? And I want to write books. Because I really love writing. Like, writing is an important thing to me, so I want to write. I've always loved writing. I've always wrote very fast and a lot. That's always been what I've done, even since I was a kid. Like, writing has always been one of the only things I'm good at and can consistently do. So, I want to write books, and I basically want to live with my boyfriend as a NEET, because I know that I cannot make money off of any skill that I have, but I know another thing, that given the mental illnesses I have, I can technically apply for NEET bucks in the United States. Welfare, cash, $700 a month, if you will. So, what I'm gonna do is just apply for disability, because, I mean, technically I am disabled, given, you know, my schizophrenia, and my depression, and social anxiety and stuff. Those things, based on the laws and regulations of disability in the United States, qualify. Schizophrenia especially qualifies. So, I can just say, okay, you know, get this thing right here, Mr. Lawyer Man, and then I go into my disability hearing, and then, you know, because my case is good enough, I win, and then I have money. And so, that's basically just how I want to live my life. Just be a disabled person who writes books, and lives with their boyfriend, and makes videos, and watches anime all the time. That's how I want to live my life. Basically just being a NEET. Being a NEET forever. And working on stuff that no one else cares about but me. Because I'm not going to make the broad content that everyone wants. Because I'm not interested in doing that. And I know I can't force myself to. Because then it comes out bad. So I'm just going to make whatever I want. And live however I want. And just kind of live with him. And not talk to anybody else. Just live with him, and just make art, and just consume art, and read books, constantly be reading books about everything. So, that's my ideal life. That's what I want to do. I feel like my entire life has just been leading up to this, that I've had all these different ambitions and goals, only to realize being disabled is probably the only thing I could do as a human being. Like, these systems were built for people who can offer nothing to society and have no ability to. And I am one of those people. So, in order for me to not die, I must apply, you know? That was not intentionally meant to rhyme. But my ideal life has changed very much over the years, especially in the last couple, where I spent a long time being directionless, and when I was very young I wanted to be, you know, silly things like the president or a chef. But now, I just want to consume art and make art on my own terms.